Welcome to I Read This Book with Chris. It's me, Chris. While drinking an orange spice old fashioned, I will be discussing the books that I've read this year. I've got a top list of books that I think you should read, or they were my favorite ones, and then a bottom list of ones to avoid. I'm not going to discuss all the books I've read. If you look in the description, you should see it's the entire list of books that I've read or listened to on audiobook the entire year. There'll be some books on that list that are better than some of the books I have here. For example, I listened to, again, the whole Chronicle of Narnia series, which I think is great. That's not going to be on here because I've listened to that dozens and dozens of times. Also, Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy, I'm not going to discuss. Everyone knows that's great. But of all the books that I've read this year, for the first time, or only this year, here are my top and bottom lists. Let's start with the bottom of the barrel. So my job allows me time to listen to audiobooks while I'm working. And I have been working my way through classics. So, some classic literary fiction and then some classic science fiction as well. First item on my bottom list, do not read Ringworld by Larry Niven. I like quite a bit of stuff that Niven has written. Ringworld is right in that spot of science fiction where people enjoy the long, big epics, but their ideas, their concepts that they're using to build this world, to tell this story, do not deserve epic long novels. If he had taken Ringworld, the idea is basically it's just a big ribbon, a world that comes around the sun or some planet. And it spins, which captures out of the air and all that stuff. And it's basically just a really big world because that's a lot of space to take up. That's a cool concept. However, it just goes on and on. There's some characters. None of the characters are super exciting. There's a lot of hard sci-fi in there that I'm just really not impressed by because it's not actual science, but they're pretending like it is. It just goes on and on. Like that hard sci-fi I don't like. Epic. I don't think it's worth the read. Other classic that I think you should avoid is The Purchase of the North Pole by Jules Verne. I've been trying to read some classic sci-fi, and it's weird. So like Journey to the Center of the Earth, some parts of Frankenstein. I can't think of other ones right now off the top of my head, but I know they're there. Some of this older science fiction is in this weird liminal space. Part adventure story. It's early sci-fi. Like they are the people creating the genre. But it's got adventure. It's got part newspaper clippings, and sometimes it's really cool. Like in Journey to the Center of the Earth. I mean, it's cool. You're going and you're finding what we thought was true about the world isn't. There's another world down there that's separate, that's unique, that's fun. And even if you aren't the biggest fan of the way the story is written, it's a good story. It's written well. There's interesting things there. The story isn't super interesting. Writing isn't the best. It's just not. There's a reason people haven't heard of it. And skip that. Give it a chance. My number 3 book that I think you should skip is The Comedians by Graham Greene. This was an audiobook I listened to. And a name that comes up all the time that you see very regularly is Graham Greene. I never read any of his stuff. I listened to an audiobook. It was awful. Boring story. Nothing super exciting. It's sort of... I've read some Faulkner. Got a similar vibe to that. If it's just a really boring literary story. I just don't understand. It's literary literature type stuff. Some of it's really good. Some of it I enjoy quite a bit. And then that other stuff that it doesn't make it. Skip Graham Greene, The Comedians. I probably won't try any of his other stuff unless someone tells me I need to. But so far I've never met anyone who praises Graham Greene. So that's probably going to be all I get. Alrighty, now I got my top 5. These are in no particular order, but these are my top 5 books that I've read in the past year. Preferred Risk. There we go. By Edson McCann. I really enjoy science fiction that takes ideas that you aren't expecting and brings them together. There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can do one way, which is just silly. and whimsical. There is a book, I think it's called Prothos Plus, which is a dentist gets abducted by aliens and then becomes a slave to do dentistry on aliens. But he manages to get his freedom, and then he starts running the intergalactic dentistry school. That one, I believe it's by Piers Anthony. I read it. I liked it so much, I gave it to my dad. I'm now looking for another copy for my collection. But very whimsical, crazy idea. Well done. Preferred Risk is 1984 if you were an insurance adjuster. Now that, if that does not sound exciting to you, I guess you really don't understand what science fiction is. Science fiction should be fun, crazy things thrown together. It's a pretty serious look. I mean, it's science fiction, so it's not the most serious thing in the world, but I enjoyed it quite a bit, and it's one of the things that science fiction should be. This is like a perfect science fiction story. Next top read of the year, Down in the Black Game and Other Stories by Philip Jose Farmer. There are a couple of stories in this anthology that I think are amazing. Most of all, I think what it really did, what I enjoy most from this book is I now have a new author, Philip Jose Farmer, that I can go and I'm not going to worry about whether or not, if when I pick it up, if it's going to be well written, if it's going to have good ideas in it. All of these were good. Not all the stories were good, but they were all well written. They all had good ideas. It's just overall good old science fiction anthology. I did a video on this. You should watch it if that sounds interesting to you. When talking about Preferred Risk, I was saying there wasn't whimsy. This is a book with whimsy. The Great Time Machine Hoax by Keith Laumer. Time travel, which I personally adore time travel. I have a whole collection of time travel. Most of the science fiction movies I watch are somewhat informed by time travel. But time travel, it involves the concept of causal loops. Things get crazy, get out of hand. It's good. Pick it up if you find it. Book number 4, The Weapon Makers by A.E. Van Vogt. I don't have a whole lot to say about this. This is a little earlier, 1947, than the other sci-fi I have on my list for my top of the year. It is, once again, extremely well written for 1940 sci-fi, anyway. This is definitely not going to be my favorite book of all time, but I think this is one of... It has a lot of features in there that you will see in later science fiction. I think that it does well. There's the idea of empire being big, empire falling, technology changing things, characters being on the run. All sorts of fun and interesting things. And it is... Anyone who loves science fiction and does not love this, I do not know what they are... I do not understand what they're getting out of science fiction. Maybe, this is just one of those things that just fits there perfectly. Alrighty. Last book of the year in my top 5 is Sirens of Titan by Kurt Vonnegut. I just put out a video on this. Basically, from my reading of it, it is a proof novel of nihilism. Kurt Vonnegut, if you have not read any of his stuff, read it. Read any of his novels. They're amazing. Everyone I've read so far. It's weird. It's all trippy, all confusing, all layers upon layers. Don't want to go into it too much. You can watch my video if you want. But if you see it, pick it up. It's worth it. Yeah, that's my year in review. If you agree with some of my picks, you've read any of them and you like them, good. You have good tastes. Yeah.